We are back for another month-end roundup, our favorite part of the car business. We started at 0 yesterday.
We closed the book.
And we are back. So welcome to the new subscribers. Thank you for those of you who joined us. Zach, we got to break this down. How was the month last month? Did you sell any new cars?
Yeah, we got some new cars. It was a beautiful thing. We got back to where we had some inventory. We saw the first new car growth of 2024.
Cool.
So it's not hard to say you had a growth when literally you got into the 90s on retail units. So still frustrating on the Toyota front, but definitely enjoyable to see the team start to sell, have a little more fun around the dealership. And then for us, obviously the big thing is service still is on fire.
Yeah.
So customer pay growths are up. We've just been blessed. It's been a good 2024. Also Q4 just opened the books, which is crazy to say here we are. The end of the year's here.
Mm-hmm. End of the year's here. Yeah, so I think just overall, fixed operations, it was kind of a hit or miss month. I think depending on the brand that you had, you either hit it or you didn't hit it.
Yeah, and I think we saw that, the blessings of being here in Lafayette, Indiana, but with the Roman Automotive Group, we have the 11 stores in Indiana, and having our first of the month phone call yesterday and being able to see there were some home runs, and then there were some... We got on base, but it may not have been pretty. It may have been one of those fluke singles out to the right field where... It shouldn't have been a hit, but it was just perfect. So
it's one of those months you're like, oh, you're flat year over year, but one store's up 30%, one's down 30%.
Yep.
It was one of those months. So, and talk about, heading into Q4 with some crazy stuff happening.
We got some breaking news that everyone's going through. So it's just,
talking about the hurricane, talking about the what are these strikes?
Yeah, the port strike from the longshoremen. I didn't know what a longshoreman was until this week. So
I know, it sounds like a college mascot.
I was talking to my wife last night. I was like, "Did you hear about the longshoremen?" She's like, "Who are you talking about?" I was like, "That's the port workers." And she's like, "Don't act like you knew that before yesterday."
So there's some brands that move through there. I don't know if you have that list as far as who's moving through there. And then let's talk about potentially what that's going to do for future supply.
Yeah. So the strike that's going on with the port directly with automotive, which is crazy. The brands that will be affected, it says the first two that are the highest are BMW and Volkswagen coming through there, followed by General Motors, Ford, and then Hyundai. So those would be the five that are going through the port. Again, BMW and Volkswagen being, this is like their main port of entry to the United States. So crazy to sit here and think about that. The side note on it is that with the port strike, things such as bananas, electronics, auto parts, pharmaceuticals, and even, breaking news to everyone here, get your alcohol because it could be coming to an end with the port strike.
Come on. Don't do that to us.
You got to get that bourbon honey, though. You got it yourself making it.
Don't do that to us. So here's my question. You shut down a port. What happens? Do these big ships with cars on them just wander around in circles till these guys are like, come on in, we're ready to work again?
Yeah, it was like that.
Seriously, what is that?
That ship in the Middle East that ran aground. And then you'd see like a year ago, 2 years ago, you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was going through like a canal and got off course and ran aground, and all the ships were stuck out in the harbor. It's like, is that going to happen? Do they go to a different port? I think the way that I understand it and doing just some quick research is like these ports bid out these contracts to have these ships come in. So these ships are still like contracted to be delivered there, and there's just nobody unloading these. So I saw one research said $4.5 billion a day can be lost in this. So there's got to be some leverage here. There's got to be obviously a plan out of this. Who knows how long it goes? But I think in the auto world, what a terrible time for this to be going on. Because of all the things that have happened with the hurricanes, the flooding, and the flooding that's not just centralized to the hurricane. This has moved up South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. It's just truly devastating. And our hearts and prayers go out for everyone who's been affected or have family members. Our parts manager here at Toyota, Brandon Greer's parents are in Florida, and they were stranded out on, I think it was Anne Marie Island. So prayers to them and everything. And I know that it's impacting people all across the United States. Yeah,
and I think it's going to send ripple effects, shockwaves through the used car market. Think about all these cars that are flooded now. So what are the choices with those? You dispose of them, or do they just kind of get snuck up to other regions and sold without anything on a Carfax?
Yeah, I think the twofold we've seen, right? And again, I don't know it because I'm not living there, but specifically those areas outside of Florida. I'm sure in Florida you would have some type of flood insurance. Again, being an Indiana resident, not anything I would ever consider owning, but you would think if I moved to Florida, it'd be something I would look into. But think about like North Carolina, the mountain towns that aren't used to flooding, or even some of these Tennessee locations. Like, there is no way they have flood insurance. And I know the way insurance works is this going to be an act of God. No way we could predict it. So what we've seen historically in the past with flooding and hurricanes is these vehicles tend to get bought for pennies on the dollar. Somebody brings them up, they detail them, they make them operational, they drive them up here. And the craziest thing in the world is they try to trade them in on cars that are worth half value. Mm-hmm. So meaning, hey, we call the car $20,000. They see a car on a lot for 8, 9, 10. Mm-hmm. Hey, we'll just take 10 grand cash back, and then we realize on inspection further that this has been a flood damaged car. So yeah, I mean, the two things that are going to happen is the supply chain down south with the demand will skyrocket. Meaning most of the wholesale pieces, the vehicles that are available will be shipped down to the south, which will drive inflation prices up here. Mm-hmm. And then again, what's going to tend to happen is these cars are going to need to be reallocated, which the fear could be for all these manufacturers that are still struggling with allocation purposes. Are we going to lose allocation due to allocating quick sales? Because if I put my manufacturer hat on and not Zach, the Toyota dealer, if I was the manufacturer, and I can guarantee more sales in an area because of a natural disaster, why would I not allocate the cars down there? So
yeah, and I think as far as the used cars are concerned, I mean, obviously it takes out a lot of supply. The demand remains. In fact, demand has probably increased with the Fed lowering interest rates recently, right? Yeah. And although it's just a half a point, I mean, that news sparks some emotion among some buyers that say, hey, I'm going to go buy something.
Yeah, I've been putting it off.
You've absolutely chopped the legs out from under it with the used car market. There's Ken Ganley, there was a Kia store down there, 672 cars on just that one lot. So think about all throughout Florida and all throughout the belt of the country that this hit, how many cars are going to be wiped out. So I think consumers need to be very careful in the coming months of the kind of cars that they're buying, right? But it's going to be, again, just when we got interest rates down, now we're going to knock out supply, for a fourth of the country when it comes to used cars and new cars.
Yeah, and the sad part is, these individuals that are without vehicles aren't going to have any answer for the next 30 to 60 days potentially.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is they're going to be forced to make a move before they have any true answers. So I think you see the continuing of, over-leveraged individuals that are having to step up financially because they're waiting for insurance to see what they're going to do. And, what we've experienced in the past is insurance companies don't move very fast on these kind of claims. And in this scenario, I don't blame them because of how many they're going to be overwhelmed with. And again, our hearts go out to everyone because this is something that nobody had planned, nobody wants to deal with, nobody should have to deal with. But welcome to living in the South on a crazy, crazy scenario.
We should talk about the other videos that I've seen of these EV vehicles catching on fire with like the salt water coming in.
Yeah, due to flooding, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I thought I saw.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. So it's like the salt water causes something to happen with the electric vehicles and they just spontaneously combust. And these things are like burning and they're underwater. It is wild. So,
yeah,
the EV vehicles, obviously, say what you want about it, but technicians are concerned about these things. There was a dealer group not too far from us that had one catch fire when it was in the shop. So safety is a huge thing when it comes to owning one of these, working on one of these, and obviously they're cool vehicles. They're fun to drive. But man, there's just, who would have thought? I never thought I'd see videos of these things just absolutely blowing up by getting water on them. But
what kind of claim do you make if your house is flooded and then the electric vehicle catches fire and burns it down? Is that
it's really
fire damage or flood damage?
I mean, I would assume they'd probably do flood damage. But I at one point was licensed in insurance, but
it is crazy. I mean, it truly, it's another variable that you never consider. And I think that's the part that I in 2024, I feel like the move to EV and the acceptance of it started and really had a great 6 months. I'd say January through June, I really saw consumers start becoming educated and make that move. But I almost feel like in the day-to-day operations, and again, we're in the Midwest, we're in the absolute worst spot for EV vehicle sales. So this is a regional product. This is not, the nation itself. Yep. But the stance here in the Midwest, I feel like has definitely weakened due to winter coming, due to the unknown, due to things like this. I mean, people are absolutely terrified, and I am sure somewhere in the world there was a gas vehicle that was in someone's garage that caught fire, and we heard nothing of it because, the vehicle flooded and it shorted out because of it. But yeah, to your point, it is absolutely crazy, and I think the difference is some of these car fires. If you've ever seen one on the interstate, or if you've ever seen anyone just out and around anywhere in your life, they are intense as can be, and I think that's part of it. When then you add the electric batteries and components that. It's truly scary. I mean, it's tough to buy a car and feel like you're safe in the unknown.
Yeah, and I think not only adding the hurricane on top of, again, these port issues. I mean, it's going to be very dramatic in Q4 to see what happens, And then, man, I saw that Chrysler is getting hit with a lawsuit. I mean, that's news that like just came out. That brand is in absolute turmoil right now, and
For sure.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I was telling someone the other day, I guarantee you a lot of their product line won't even be a choice next year.
Oh, yeah, I haven't thought about that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
They're going to have to shut down something, right? And these dealers, I know these dealer bodies, I think there was an open letter that was written to the manufacturer, and then they wrote one back, and it's kind of this very odd situation right now.
With your statement, I totally agree, but I do know they just brought back 2 models they discontinued last year.
That was smart.
Because, they discontinued them last year and brought them back to try to start some kind of motion. So I think the logical human being totally agrees with you. I think the leadership of whatever's going on at Stellantis is so out of control, they're reaching and grasping for anything.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I think I've told this story before. My parents just moved to the town we live in, and they've always been an hour and a half, 2 hours away from us. So they really didn't understand. I didn't get the daily phone calls of like, hey, drove through town today, saw you guys don't have any cars on the lot.
Yeah.
It's like my dad's go-to. Not, hi, how are you? How's it going, son? It's, hey, you still don't have any cars. Yeah, Dad, thanks. You called me Tuesday, told me the same thing. But then he's like, we drive through the town and all these other dealerships have them. For everybody listening, the manufacturer gets paid when you receive the VIN number of the vehicle into your allocation. So you got to understand the reason these dealerships are flooded with lots may not be because they're selling cars and that's the demand. That's what I think the general public's belief is. It's truly that these cars are being put into inventory allocation to check a box and say, paycheck, paycheck, paycheck. So dealerships with supply like that tend to be dealerships that are also struggling to sell vehicles. So definitely for the general public that's out there seeing these things, to Austin's point, they got to figure out what they're going to do because the models aren't moving, and the models that have moved, historically the Jeeps, the Dodge Rams, are stuck. And we just had a Jeep that was traded in here that the individual said to us, we thought we were giving a number that was just astronomically low, about $18,000 less than what they bought it. Car only had 1,600 miles on it. We just said, sir, we're scared to death of this vehicle. And he goes to us, yeah, that's fine. It's still $2,000 more than what I paid. And you're like, no, we just overpaid for a vehicle that we thought we were conservative of and with all the market data. But between the deal, the desperation, everything, we may be stuck with a Jeep on our inventory for a minute here.
Yeah, and it's crazy because some of these dealers are like, no, we don't want those cars.
Yeah.
Like, do not send them to us. And the manufacturer's like, no, you're a franchise. Like, we're going to give them to you. And then every single car on the lot there is what? A banknote behind it.
100%.
With interest. So it's just a wild world. It's
not
going
just
to be
interest,
interesting to see.
5.5, 6, 7, depending on what you've negotiated with your bank and your reputation. I mean, just think about what you may have in a monthly. So we've actually had a dealership call us at the end of a month and say, hey, we have 5 vehicles we want to sell you guys. And it's like, what do you mean? Like another dealership willing to sell us inventory. So we're in a blessing right now where our demand is higher than our supply with Toyota. So we're still taking those vehicles and seeing this as an opportunity to serve more customers. But there's other dealerships that don't have that. And right now, like you said, the Stellantis brand is one that's very scary.
Yeah. We switch gears a little bit and talk about our special project that we got going on.
Our Thursday project.
We are, Zach and I
let's do our top button, get our glasses on.
Because we'll call ourselves professors.
We are adjunct professors.
Adjunct professors with Northwood University out of Michigan. So,
emphasis on the junk professor, I think.
Yeah. So we're leading labs on Thursdays with them. And it was kind of fun the first week. We had never really done anything like this. I don't think we had a ton of information.
No,
and
we had no clue what we were doing.
The second week, we actually bought out the owners that were running the store because we didn't like them. So
yeah, let's give a little background too. So the idea of the class is Northwood University is a university in Midland, Michigan. The whole purpose of this major is to bring individuals in and introduce them to automotive.
That's cool.
And
it's really
the topic that we're helping in the lab session is just going through financial statements.
Which, I mean, it's dealership management in a nutshell. Like, we're going to touch on everything.
And truly, I would say out of the 80-some employees I have here at the dealership, I would say there's probably only one individual who's been with me that has even had financial statement exposure in an education sense. So what a cool idea of saying, hey, your career may be 5, 6, 7 years away from this opportunity to have financial statement, but when you get the opportunity, it's not going to be a foreign document because when I stepped in leadership, I had no clue what I was looking at because all manufacturers do it differently and it's per their basis, not accounting standards or anything. So we're going through this class, and the scenario is every student in the class has a position in the dealership based off the financial statement. That's the conversation. So the first week it was a used car operation where we felt like they weren't turning cars fast enough. So they had to come up with a process of how were they going to do it and how to impact the statement. And Austin and I felt like every time we asked a question, it was the variable of who was the individual who was going to answer it. So we pulled I would say the true professors and the head of the department in from Northwood and said, hey, what if we throw a crazy idea to you where we buy the dealership, like a buy-sell. We walked in and did a buy-sell.
The manufacturer forced the sale.
Yeah, right. And said, now we're the owner, so now we can take the financial statement and identify weaknesses and say, hey, finance director, your PVR and finance is down and needs to be increased. What are you going to do about it next week? So it happened quick. We fired the owner of the dealership, and he said, as long as you send us the check, and we said, it's in the mail.
So then our second lab, which was a fun one, was like a cost cutting. So we announced the fact that we took ownership of the business, and then we went down the path of expenses, which is what the class was over. And so we had we were picking Russell Richardson up from the airport, friend of the podcast, Russell Richardson, and also John Frederick from Car Dealership Guy. So we picked them up from the airport, and they were in the car when we were doing the class, which was pretty fun. So we were saying, hey, we can cut out all the marketing expense. But what was I was trying to remember the used cars. They were averaging about $2,300 on the front end, or was that round trip?
Round trip.
$2,300 round trip, and then advertising per car was $5,000, and they or 500. Sorry, 500 per car, and they were not showing any sort of rebate back from the manufacturer on any of that advertising. So we're like, whoa, we got a huge issue here. But it was fun to walk them through. Okay, how much per car are you guys doing right now? Take this line of the statement, that line of the statement, divided by this, divided by that. Here's where you find it, right? So they're starting to not only know where that data is on the financial statement, but then we're trying to help them think through, okay, how can we move this number? How can we make this number better? $500 per car in advertising, does that seem reasonable? No. Right? Okay, so how are we going to cut it? Let's look at all the third-party advertising that we do. Let's see what works and what doesn't. Let's vet it. Let's look at the data. Let's get a social media strategy in here. We can save a ton of money here.
Yeah, what was crazy, at least for this scenario, was I would like to say you and I had a conversation and discussed it more than let's hop on the Zoom call. But when we took over the ownership, it was more of the idea. It just aligned perfect with the first week of us taking over ownership being expense control. Because truly, if I did take over a dealership, the first thing I would do besides get to know people would be show me your expense structure. Yeah. Let me get into it. So in this same scenario, there's dealerships out there all over the United States that would say, I don't know why I advertise and what I advertise. And then the saying of all marketing and everything is advertising is great. There's one half that works and one half that doesn't, and I don't know which half is which. Right? And in this scenario, it was such a good conversation of these guys to be able to say, hey, would you pay $500 commission for every car that was sold? And these students who don't have a real good understanding that may have interned a half a semester or interned in a service department or interned on a sales floor were like, it seems high. And you're like, it's extremely high. Here at our dealership, we're trying to drive that number below $100. And we're trying to do that through a social strategy, as we kind of talked about. So
that's for the advertising, not the commission.
Yeah, no, not commission. Okay. Advertising, right? Advertising under $100. And the part that became just perfect timing again, that I wish we would be able to say that we planned all this, was to get into a conversation of them going, well, how would we do it? And it was just a turn of the cell phone to be like, well, here's a guy that can help you out. And Russ flips whips. And it was cool to have a class of, I don't know how old they are. What did you say, 18 to 23?
Yeah, typical college-age kids,
And literally listen to the students that are kind of monotone. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. The first session, we didn't get a whole lot of interaction. And then we flipped the phone, and Russ is like, hey, guys. They're like, oh, shoot, that's that guy from TikTok.
He's from TikTok. What's up, man?
Yeah, and it was the most interaction we've seen. Kids got fired up, asking questions. So it was definitely a cool environment to see the youth of what could be the next generation of leadership really hop in and take control and run a class.
Yeah, and they're promoting their big event. They have a big event coming up here in a week or two, I think it is. I should probably know before I say something about it. But we gave them a challenge to post about it on social. Let's try to see what kind of traction that that you can get out of it, and then we'll think of some sort of prize. So who knows what that'll be. But, one thing I will say, Russ is such a genuine dude. They were reaching out to him and he's responding to them, and DMs and all that thing. So, it was pretty fun. But it's going to be a great opportunity for us, to be able to kind of give back to the automotive community. A couple of them have interned with us. I know from last summer I had
sure.
a couple in the fixed ops track, and you've had some in the sales, and so it's just kind of cool to get connected with them. I wish I would have known about automotive college when I was going to college, right?
Yeah.
But what a great experience for them, and then for us too, to be able to give back and kind of see what that next generation looks like in the car business, because it's going to look dramatically different. Like I feel like we're sandwiched in the middle of we're trying to be progressive in terms of social media and different things that we're doing, and that's all they know, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other guys that are ahead of us that are still the old school mindset with a lot of things, which still works.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Still works.
Yeah, and there's times where we need to take the old school mindset and roll with it. And I think that's where this podcast really falls in, is like the reason we're doing this month-end update is to be able to relate to individuals. What's going on in automotive? What do we see? What are we struggling with? What's good? What's bad? And again, we're not going to hold back in this. Like, if I come out of this, hopefully I never have to say this on the podcast, but if I come out of a month and I look like I've just been beat up, it's because my month was probably that. And we'll share with you and like the mistakes we made. And I think that's the part that's super interesting. So in kind of recapping and closing it, I got to ask you, what's going on in the body shop?
Oh, yeah.
We talked a lot about the body shop and the changes there. As we end it, kind of give us the brief update where you're at. What have you learned?
Yeah, super excited right now. I just put an interim manager in there, so somebody we promoted internally.
Oh, that's awesome.
Giving them till the end of the year to kind of either take it or lose it type thing. Got them set up with Coach Pat, our executive leadership coach, going to do 2 sessions in October,
Shout
one
out
in
the
November,
coaching authority.
1 in December. So that's going to be huge. And then, I was able to do a market adjustment for a couple of the guys back there.
Cool.
Always fun to give raises. And then, we're going to restructure a couple other different roles, but I think everyone's super happy with where we're at. I've been meeting with a bunch of different paint companies and trying to attack it from a cost standpoint, see what we can do. But yeah, we're in it. I feel like I've turned a corner for sure. The daily meetings are happening whether I'm there or not, and the guys are enjoying them.
Working.
They were there at 8:58 today. Everyone was there 2 minutes early.
No paging, no nothing?
No, they were there
Whoa,
2
that's a
minutes early
win.
this morning.
That's
I was
a
like,
win.
whoa, what time is it? Right? So, yeah, they enjoy it. We're getting cars out ahead of schedule now. Ahead of schedule.
That's a mistake, right?
No, it's crazy. So it's amazing to see what a process works, when it's implemented and actually executed.
It's cool.
So
It's cool because you don't have direct experience either. So being able to take your experience of, service shop and walk over there and say, hey, I don't know everything, so I'm going to allow you guys to tell me, but here's what I do know in process and procedures, and then be able to.
We're starting our
capitalize
social
off it.
media strategy too. So we got the, and I'll show you this after the podcast. So we have the 360 photo booth. So we're going to do 360 images of the cars before and after.
Oh,
so
that'd be awesome.
We just got one in there today. We started a TikTok. We have a couple posts that we did already. So yeah, I'm super excited. I have somebody that's in charge of that. Like that's their job. And then they're going to go visit the different insurance companies. We ordered $2,000 worth of swag. She's going to go out and distribute
That'd be
it.
cool.
So it's going to be cool. I can't wait to update you guys next month about how
I feel
that's
like
happening.
we need some swag here on the back or something.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're looking at the table, we keep adding stuff. I want Austin to hold up your mic stand here.
Yes.
This comes from a subscriber. This is so cool. These are parts from inside of a transmission. So if you guys got stuff that you can make that they made us into a microphone stand, shout out Ethan on this one. Awesome stuff. Hopefully we get another one so I can
Obviously,
be part
as
of the squad.
the fixed ops guy, I had to have
It
this
is
one.
super cool, though.
I love it.
So, yeah, shout out that. Guys, we love anything. If you got something you want to send us, if you want something you want shouted out in this, again, we love to meet you, love to know you. We want to hear from you guys. So, comment, subscribe, like the podcast. We now are live, Logan, behind the scenes on Spotify.
Oh, let's go.
So hopefully he gets those posted same day. So if not, you'll find it on YouTube first, then Spotify. But guys, we're excited. The last thing I got for everybody is check out the grand opening we did up at Schaumburg Honda.
Yeah.
We were blessed to be able to come up there and highlight everything. But we got the podcast dropping with the owners of the Roman Automotive Group, kind of talking about why they made the investment and everything. So we're definitely fired up for that. So.
Yeah, it's cool. That was such a cool time. Such a cool time. All right, we're out. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things.